Part 15. God Level Tip, report the walking 500,000 at the beginning. Author, Tien Tien Taido. Chapter 141. Not only did Ye Tian fail to bring Ye Xiun with him, he was also beaten like a pig, and lost 1.1 billion. He really lost more than he gained. Until he drove far away from Jiangbei No. 1 courtyard. Damn it, I must pay this debt back. Wait and see. In the car, Ye Tian said angrily. Young master Ye. What should we do now? A subordinate asked Ye Tian. What else can we do? Go back to the magic city. I must go back and tell them what happened here. By then, it won't just be me who will come. In short, this kid is dead. Ye Tian said sternly again. In the villa. Li Hao looked at Ye Xiun again and said to Ye Xiun indifferently. It's still early, go and rest for a while. Don't you want to ask? Ye Xiun said to Li Hao. What to ask? Li Hao said puzzledly, looking confused. Ye Xiun. This guy, is he doing it on purpose? Ye Xiun exhaled heavily, as if she had made up her mind, and then she slowly said. I am from the Ye family in the Magic City. Yes. I know. Li Hao nodded, his expression did not change. Ye Xiun was speechless, that's it? This guy was not surprised or shocked at all. The Ye family is very rich. Ye Xiun said again. I can see it. Li Hao said lightly. The Qin family is richer than the Ye family. It is not an exaggeration to say that it is the largest family in the Magic City. Ye Xiun continued. So what? However, Li Hao said calmly. Ye Xiun was speechless again when she heard what Li Hao said. She was a little worried, but Li Hao was still indifferent. Finally, Ye Xiun sighed again. Alas, my family will never give up. And the people of the Qin family. Ye Xiun said in a deep voice with a solemn face. Li Hao could naturally see Ye Xiun's worry. Li Hao walked directly to Ye Xiun again and said calmly. Let them come. Then, Li Hao looked straight at Ye Xiun again and asked in a deep voice. You just need to tell me. Do you want to go back? Ye Xiun also looked at Li Hao, and a wave of emotion appeared in her heart. The next moment, Ye Xiun shook her head. Ha ha. Seeing this scene, Li Hao laughed again and said. Don't worry. As long as you don't want to leave, even if the King of Heaven comes, he can't take you away. I'm here. Li Hao's voice was filled with an unparalleled domineering aura. I'm here. Hearing these three words, Ye Xiun couldn't help but move in her heart and felt relieved. It seemed that even if the sky fell, he would support her and help her hold up a piece of sky. Touched. Ye Xiun's heart was even more moved, and there was a different meaning in her beautiful eyes when she looked at Li Hao. Ha ha. Are you particularly touched? Why don't you give me a kiss? Li Hao looked at Ye Xiun and felt that Ye Xiun was extremely touching at this moment. He couldn't help laughing again and said. You. Go away. Ye Xiun was extremely touched, but when she heard Li Hao's words, her face suddenly became dark and angry, but the depressed mood in her heart had been swept away. Ha ha ha, I'm going to make breakfast. Li Hao smiled and walked away, preparing to make breakfast. It didn't matter if he didn't eat, but this girl still had to eat. But when Li Hao walked into the kitchen. Ding ding ding. Li Hao's phone rang. It turned out to be Qin Lai, Qin Yaqing's father. What's the matter with calling me so early in the morning? Hello. Li Hao picked up the phone directly. Uncle Qin. Oh my, Li Hao. You are really amazing. On the phone, Qin Lai actually cursed. Li Hao's face was dark. Li Hao, the land we bought is going to increase in value. Ha ha ha, luckily we acted quickly. More than a dozen CEOs of large companies have called me today. They all want to buy the land we have at a high price. You are amazing. How did you know that this land is going to be popular? Today, the new subway line plan was released. The station entrance is right next to our land and. Chin Lai's voice was a little excited on the phone. Li Hao understood. It turned out that today, the new subway line plan was released. When everyone thought it was impossible to pass by the land, the new subway line happened to pass by the land that Li Hao and Chin Lai bought together. Not only that, there were several headlines reporting on the construction plan for the northern part of Jiangbei. In short, in one sentence, the land that Li Hao and Chin Lai bought, the land that everyone was not optimistic about, is going to be popular. The price of this piece of land is going to rise sharply. I am afraid it will rise several times or even dozens of times. Chin Lai was very excited on the phone, and he had to admire Li Hao's vision in his heart. Ha. Uncle Chin, where are we now? Wait a few more days and see. When Li Hao heard the news, he felt a little upset in his heart, but fortunately, it was within Li Hao's expectation. Are the prompts given by the system still wrong? It's only been a few days. The best time has not yet come. Therefore, Li Hao was not in a hurry, but he was also very happy because he was going to make money again. Well, listen to you. What about Yaking? I haven't affected you and Yaking, right? I'll hang up first. Chin Lai said on the phone again. No. Li Hao had a dark look on his face again. Where is this from? Nothing happened between him and Chin Yaking. Dudu. Chin Lai had already hung up the phone. After breakfast, Yeshiun went to class as usual. Li Hao, on the other hand, went to Shanglaxi Hotel. The door to the presidential suite opens. Li Hao just saw that a foreign goddess with blonde hair and blue eyes came to open the door for Li Hao wearing a bathrobe. Dear Mr. Li, you are finally here. Linda said to Li Hao resentfully. Li Hao looked at Linda in front of him, and a strange color suddenly appeared in his eyes. This figure is amazing. And the nightgown Linda was wearing couldn't hide the beauty. Li Hao couldn't help but take a breath of cold air. Who the hell can stand this? Mr. Li, come in quickly. Come in quickly. Linda pulled Li Hao and walked inside. Snap. Then, there was only a clear sound from the door. Closed. Mr. Li, why did you leave me here alone? I'm so bored. Linda said to Li Hao again. Pulling Li Hao, he walked towards the master bedroom of the suite, looking impatient. Linda. Don't worry. God level tip, report the walking 500,000 at the beginning. Author, Tian Taido. Chapter 142. Linda, don't worry. Li Hao said to Linda. Li Hao was pulled by Linda into the master bedroom of the suite. There was an amazing touch on his arm, which made Li Hao couldn't help but have a wild thought in his heart. But as a monk, Li Hao still has a strong concentration and a clear head. Huh? In a hurry? I'm not in a hurry. Linda couldn't help being startled when she heard Li Hao's words, and then said again. Mr. Li, I've been waiting for you for a long time. Let's drive in. Well, you haven't had breakfast yet, right? Go in and drink some milk. When Li Hao heard Linda's words, he was suddenly shocked. Have some milk? Is it so direct? What milk? Serious? Well, I've already had breakfast. Li Hao said weakly. Have you eaten? That doesn't matter. It won't hurt if you drink some milk. This is the milk I brought from the country of me. Can you taste it? However, Linda said again. Li Hao was speechless. Of course I knew it was brought by me country. Do I need to say this? But since Linda was so enthusiastic, she had no reason to refuse. Okay. Try it. Li Hao said directly, no longer rejecting Linda's kindness. Without cowardice. Just when Li Hao was dreaming of a beautiful scene in his mind, Linda pulled Li Hao to a leisure table in the room, then picked up a glass of milk that had been poured and handed it to Li Hao. "Come, try it. The milk I brought from me country," Linda said to Li Hao seriously. Li Hao was stunned, his expression instantly solidified. "Grass. It's really milk. It turns out that I was overthinking it and thought it was." Li Hao silently took the glass of milk from Linda's hand and drank it in one gulp. It tastes great." Li Hao nodded directly and changed the topic. "Let's go, change the pair, and let's get down to business." After saying that, Li Hao turned around and walked out directly. Linda responded, looking at Li Hao's back, but a smile appeared again. "This Mr. Li is quite interesting. Just now, she actually did it on purpose." Linda didn't close the door and went directly to the room to change clothes. Before Li Hao came, he had already called her and told her that he was going to discuss the acquisition of Easkix today. Soon, Linda put on professional attire for the day. White shirt, hip skirt. When Linda came out, Li Hao was stunned again. With her long blonde hair, tall figure, bulges where they should be, and curls where they should be, she looks like a heroine from one of those foreign blockbusters. "How is it? Mr. Li, does he look good?" Linda saw Li Hao staring at her and couldn't help but ask Li Hao again. Li Hao nodded seriously. "Do you want it? Just wait until night. It's not impossible." Linda smiled and said to Li Hao again. "Li Hao. Let's go." Li Hao smiled non-committally and said lightly. Believe it or not, Li Hao suspected that the assistant definitely did it on purpose. When Li Hao took Linda out of the presidential suite again. When some hotel employees saw Li Hao, they were shocked again and shouted respectfully to Li Hao. However, their eyes fell on Linda behind Li Hao, and they were even more shocked. "Hello, Mr. Li. Mr. Li, good morning. Mr. Li. .. Until Li Hao took Linda far away. A series of uproar sounded again in Shanglaxi Hotel. "This girl looks so stunning. Mr. Li is indeed Mr. Li. There are always beautiful women around him. You are truly a role model for our generation." Li Hao drove Linda away in a Lamborghini Poison and sped away. Less than half an hour later, the two of them had already arrived at the building of Eza Group. When Li Hao's car appeared, it was immediately recognized by the security guard at the door. "I'll go, it's Mr. Chen's boyfriend's car." The security guard at the door was shocked when he saw the Lamborghini, and then reported the news to the manager on duty, who immediately reported it. The next moment, Li Hao got out of the car directly, and Linda, who was wearing professional attire, also got out of the car with a laptop and some documents, and followed Li Hao. Li Hao took Linda and walked directly into the East Cox Group building. When the two figures just walked in, some East Cox employees saw the two of them for the first time. Isn't that Mr. Chen's boyfriend, Mr. Li? Why are you here, Mr. Li? Look, behind Mr. Li, there is a beautiful foreign woman. Oh my God, what is going on? Mr. Chen has a rival, a love rival. Does Mr. Chen know?" Seeing this scene, every East Cox employee took a deep breath, and shocking sounds could be heard from time to time. Li Hao couldn't help but feel something in his heart. He naturally listened to all these voices. But today Li Hao brought Linda here to talk about business. At the same time, in an office of East Cox, Chen Yaking had just arrived at the company and was signing and reviewing some documents. Chen Yaking is also wearing a professional outfit, which is just white with blue. Her long black and smooth hair is simply tied behind her back, giving her a somewhat cold temperament. While signing and reviewing documents, a bright smile appeared on Chen Yaking's pretty face from time to time. Some pictures from the past appeared in her mind, and that figure also appeared in her heart from time to time. Perhaps, this is fate. God allowed me to meet him, and he always appeared in front of me when I needed help. Don't know what he is doing? Not seeing each other for one day is like 3 autumns. But Chin Yaking, who was cold on the outside and hot on the inside, didn't know how to speak. Boom, boom, boom. The sound of knocking on the door sounded again at this moment. Come in. Chin Yaking said lightly. A delicate-looking woman walked in. This woman's appearance was not stunning, but she looked capable and clean. She was Chin Yaking's assistant, and her name was Rosacea. It's not good, Mr. Chin. It's not good. Rosacea spoke directly to Chin Yaking. What all the fuss? What happened? When Chin Yaking heard Rosacea's words, she acted like a domineering female CEO and asked with a frown. Mr. Chin, your boyfriend Mr. Lee is here. He also brings a beautiful foreign woman with him. Rosacea immediately said again. Mr. Chin, did you and Mr. Lee have any problems? Chin Yaking's face suddenly condensed when she heard Rosacea's words. Li Hao brought a beautiful foreign woman here? Chin Yaking's eyebrows couldn't help but frown a little deeper. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. God level tip, report the walking 500,000 at the beginning. Author, Tian Taido. Chapter 143. After Chin Yaking heard the shocking news from her assistant, she walked out of the office. Chin Yaking's pretty face was filled with frost. It is really unreasonable that Li Hao actually brought a beautiful foreign woman to her company. Although they are not real boyfriend and girlfriend, people in the company think that she and Li Hao are boyfriend and girlfriend. Chin Yaking even felt that Li Hao was her boyfriend for a time. Just walked out of the office. Chin Yaking saw a young man walking out of the elevator, followed by a foreign woman with blonde hair and blue eyes. What is this young man if not Li Hao? Especially when she saw the appearance and figure of this foreign woman, Chin Yaking's expression hardened again. Call. Chin Yaking's heart seemed to be hit hard, and it suddenly tightened, creating a sense of crisis in her heart. And all around, the employees of Easkix saw the scene one after another, and watched the show quietly with their heads raised. Yaking. When Li Hao saw Chin Yaking, he suddenly smiled and shouted to Chin Yaking. What are you doing here? Chin Yaking looked at Li Hao, but her pretty face was as cold as frost, and she said coldly. Li Hao. Li Hao was startled, feeling like his hot face was pressed against his cold buttocks. I'm here to talk to you about the acquisition of Ease Cox. Li Hao said directly. Huh? What? Acquire Ezu. Hearing Li Hao's words, Chin Yaking was suddenly stunned again, with a look of disbelief on her face. Are you kidding? Chin Yaking looked at Li Hao in astonishment and asked again. Li Hao mentioned it before, but she thought he was just joking. Although Li Hao said that he was a shareholder of Shanshui Group, Shanshui Group is such a large group and there must be many shareholders. Does Li Hao just let it go? Of course it's not a joke. No, my assistant has prepared all the information and contracts. Li Hao said with a smile again. How is this possible? Chin Yaking was shocked and murmured. What? Mr. Li wants to acquire our Yazoo. Oh my god, is this true? Yu Hao Group. Mr. Li is a drunkard who doesn't care about drinking. This is obviously aimed at our Mr. Chin. Li Hao's voice was not concealed in the slightest, and it also fell into the ears of the surrounding Yijuch employees. The Yijuch employees could not help but be extremely shocked. These people didn't know that Li Hao was a shareholder of Shanshui Group, and thought that Li Hao was going to acquire Easkix as a member of Yu Hao Group. Nothing is impossible. Mr. Li is the largest shareholder of Shanshui Group. There is no problem in acquiring an ESOCX. But at this moment, Linda beside Li Hao spoke, her voice filled with incomparable pride. As Linda finished speaking, a series of exclamations suddenly sounded inside the office building again. What? Shan Shui Group. Mr. Li is the largest shareholder of Shan Shui Group. Oh my God. How is this possible? Mr. Li is not only the president of Yuhao, but also the largest shareholder of Shan Shui Group. His. Apart from being shocked, it's just unbelievable. The largest shareholder. Qin Yaqing's heart was also filled with turmoil at this moment. It turned out that he really wasn't joking. It turned out that she still underestimated him. By the way, Yaqing, let me introduce you. This is my assistant Linda, from the headquarters of Shan Shui Group. But at this moment, Li Hao smiled and introduced Qin Yaqing again. He turned around and looked at Linda again. Linda, this is Mr. Qin Yaqing of Ease Cox Group and the founder of Ease Cox. Linda heard Li Hao's words and looked at Qin Yaqing, and Qin Yaqing was also looking at her. The two women stood opposite each other, their eyes facing each other. Their eyes seemed to be filled with an inexplicable meaning, as if there was a ray of electricity intersecting between them. Hello. Linda said directly to Qin Yaqing and stretched out her hand. Qin Yaqing also said lightly and extended her hand to Linda. The two women simply shook hands. Let's go to my office. Then, Qin Yaqing said again, and then led Li Hao and the two of them directly into her office. In the office. Mr. Qin, the contract has been drawn up. Take a look at the conditions above. Linda handed the pre-written contract to Qin Yaqing. When Qin Yaqing saw it, she couldn't help but be shocked again. The conditions offered here were not bad, and she simply couldn't refuse. Originally, Qin Yaqing didn't want to sell Yazoo, after all, it was a company group she founded. But seeing these conditions, some things came to mind. In addition, only by relying on the behemoth Shan Shui Group can we go further and develop better. After the acquisition of Ezu, it will be merged with Zhu, and she will serve as the general manager, and will also receive some additional equity. Oh, that's all. Qin Yaqing sighed and agreed. With Linda as my personal assistant, efficiency is high. Soon, the acquisition agreement was signed, and Qin Yaqing's information was submitted. With special approval from the chairman, Qin Yaqing became a member of Shan Shui Group in a matter of moments. Welcome to Shan Shui Group. After doing all this, Li Hao said with a smile. Qin Yaqing also felt a little dreamy. Next, Li Hao left directly. Linda stayed to help Qin Yaqing familiarize herself with the internal structure of Shan Shui Group and some responsibilities and processes. Soon, a high-level meeting of Yazoo Group was held. At the meeting, Qin Yaqing announced the decision of Shan Shui Group to be acquired by Yazoo. There were no layoffs. In other words, at this moment, all Yazoo employees are already employees of Shan Shui Group. Oh my God, we are acquired by Shan Shui Group. This is Shan Shui Group. That's great. A series of exclamations sounded again. The entire Yazoo Group was completely shaken. But Li Hao didn't care about what happened later. Li Hao was already on his way to Jiangbei Airport. Just before, Li Hao had taken the time to buy a ticket to Zishan. The richest man in Zishan, Long Sheng, gave me a mine, which seemed to be a spiritual stone mine. I rushed to take it over. I couldn't delay. This was related to whether my cultivation could break through. If you drive from Jiangbei to Zishan, it would take 7 or 8 hours, but it would only take more than an hour by plane. Soon, Li Hao drove the Lamborghini directly to Jiangbei Airport, then parked the car and went directly into the airport. After changing the boarding pass, Li Hao went to the boarding gate. But at this moment, a group of stewardesses carrying luggage walked past Li Hao. God level tip, report the walking 500,000 at the beginning. Author, Tien Tien Taido. Chapter 144. A group of stewardesses in uniforms carrying suitcases walked directly past Li Hao. A bright light flashed in Li Hao's eyes. Li Hao couldn't help but turn his head, and the next moment, Li Hao's face suddenly shook. These stewardesses are all very beautiful, tall, long legs, with their hair tied up and makeup on, and their temperaments are better than each other. Of course, this is not the point. To be a stewardess, this appearance and figure are very outstanding. The point is that Li Hao actually saw that 3 of them had red exclamation marks on their heads. Li Hao was shocked. The system prompt that had not appeared for a long time actually appeared at this moment. What is the prompt? Li Hao would naturally not miss it. Immediately, Li Hao directly clicked on the exclamation mark on the head of one of the stewardesses. This time, Li Hao directly clicked to confirm the payment. Li Hao's bank card text message prompt came immediately, which was the deduction information. Now you don't need to scan the code to pay by yourself to check the prompt, the system has been improved a lot. The next moment, Li Hao couldn't help but notice the deduction information. 20,000 yuan. Seeing the deduction information, Li Hao burst out a curse, only to see that the system actually deducted a full 20,000 yuan from him. Wasn't it 200 before? How did it become 20,000? Li Hao was confused and looked at the previous bank text messages again. Damn! The last deduction was already 20,000 yuan, and Li Hao actually only noticed it now. Damn! The price has increased without any notice. Li Hao couldn't help but say that the system is too pitfall, and it actually directly prompted the information to increase the price, and it actually increased by 100 times. Sun Yu, 27 years old, occupation, flight attendant, measurements, 92-64-94, Libra, will die in a flight accident in an hour. For more detailed information, please click downward arrow. The system's prompt information is about this flight attendant. But when Li Hao saw this prompt information, his heart was suddenly shocked, and his eyes suddenly condensed. What? Will die in a flight accident in an hour? Flight accident? Will the plane take action later? This is a big deal. Damn it! Without saying anything, Li Hao quickly clicked the downward arrow. This time, the bank card deduction prompt on Li Hao's mobile phone directly changed to 40,000. Sun Yu's flight AE-95 to the Magic City will take off in 40 minutes, and the right propeller of the plane. The prompt message came again, and it was clearer. Li Hao understood that it turned out that there was a problem with the propeller of the plane on the flight of this flight attendant, and the problem was hidden so deeply that even the engineers who checked the plane did not check it. If it took off, it would malfunction, causing damage to the propeller of the plane, thus causing a flight accident. This will happen in an hour, and the plane will take off in 40 minutes. Since he knew what was going to happen, and the system's prompt would definitely not be wrong, Li Hao naturally could not stand idly by and watch the plane crash happen. Therefore, Li Hao had to hurry up and respond to this question. However, there were 2 more stewardesses with 2 exclamation marks above their heads. Without saying anything, Li Hao paid and clicked again. Lu Wenwen, 27 years old, occupation, stewardess, measurements, 93-62-92, Scorpio, will die in a flight accident in an hour. For more detailed information, please click downward arrow. The same prompt. Obviously the stewardess and Lu Yu just now are in the same flight space. When Li Hao clicked on the exclamation mark above the 3rd stewardess, it was still the same prompt information. In other words, the 3 stewardesses in front of him were all on the same flight, and only the 3 of them would have an accident on this flight. When Li Hao checked the prompts above the 3 stewardesses, these stewardesses didn't even look at Li Hao, and were about to leave. Li Hao hurriedly chased after them. Beauty, wait a minute. Li Hao shouted directly to these stewardesses. When the stewardesses heard Li Hao's shout, they stopped and looked at him with their beautiful eyes. "Hello, sir, how can I help you?" One of the stewardesses said to Li Hao. And you three are on the same flight, right? Your flight cannot fly, there is something wrong with your plane, can you help me contact your captain and ask him to arrange a thorough inspection? Li Hao pointed directly at Sun Yu, Lu Wenwen, and another stewardess who had a prompt on her head just now, and said directly, "Find the captain, this is the most direct way to solve the problem." Hearing Li Hao's words, several stewardesses were stunned, and a look of surprise appeared on their pretty faces, especially Sun Wenwen and the other two. What? Their flight cannot fly? There is something wrong with the plane? Is this a joke? Or is it a psychopath? Sir, we have very professional engineers. If there is any problem with the plane, we will report it immediately. Please rest assured and ride. If there is nothing else, we will leave first. We are still waiting to serve the passengers on board. At this time, one of the stewardesses said politely to Li Hao. It was the stewardess named Lu Wenwen in the prompt. The other stewardesses beside him could not help but leave first, treating Li Hao as a lunatic and not caring about what Li Hao said at all. "Wenwen, let's go. This guy might just take the opportunity to chat up and attract our attention." Beside Lu Wenwen, Sun Yu said to Lu Wenwen again, with a hint of arrogance in her voice. "On weekdays, there are many men who want to chat up with them, and they are used to it." After saying that, Sun Yu pulled Lu Wenwen to leave. Li Hao was speechless. Why didn't he believe himself? Lu Wenwen. But at this time, Li Hao directly called the other party's name. Lu Wenwen stopped again and looked at Li Hao in surprise. "How do you know my name?" Li Hao smiled faintly. "Not only do I know your name is Lu Wenwen, I also know you are 27 years old, Scorpio, and your measurements are, slip of the tongue. Don't get me wrong, just believe what I say." Li Hao said directly again. Hearing Li Hao's words, Lu Wenwen's eyes widened. "Wenwen, don't believe this guy, he has clearly investigated you. He wants to do something bad to you." Sun Yu next to him said again. Li Hao was speechless. "I also know your name is Sun Yu, also 27 years old, Libra. Her name is Du Xiaohong." As soon as these words came out, the three stewardesses in front of him were stunned again. "How do you know?" "I said I can tell fortunes, do you believe it? I can tell your names by counting on my fingers, and I can tell what will happen by counting on my fingers again." Li Hao stood proudly with his hands behind his back, his voice filled with an inexplicable meaning. He looked extraordinary, and used a little bit of his cultivation power. God level tip, report the walking 500,000 at the beginning. Author, Tian Taido. Chapter 145. In order to be able to save people, Li Hao could only find a reason and said this. His voice contained a touch of Li Hao's cultivation power, revealing a strange power. This voice reached the ears of the three women, as if it had magical power, making them believe Li Hao's words. Next, the three girls Lu Wenwen took Li Hao to where their flight was. But when we arrived at the boarding gate, Li Hao discovered again that there were actually many people at the scene with exclamation marks on their heads. He clicked on them casually, and it was the same prompt that appeared on the three women. Obviously, the people who received the prompts were all passengers on this flight. Under the guidance of the three women, Li Hao successfully met the captain of this flight. The captain was a man in his 40s. After hearing what Li Hao said, it was still hard to believe it. "Why do you say there is something wrong with my plane? Do you know how long it takes to do a complete inspection from the beginning? How many flights will be delayed? You want to cancel my flight with just one word. Who are you? Can you bear this responsibility?" The captain said directly to Li Hao in a deep voice, and then said sharply to the three girls, Sun Wen. You are also fooling around, why did you bring this guy here so casually? The pretty faces of the three women also became a bit ugly, and they were scolded by the captain. After hearing the captain's words, Li Hao smiled lightly. He. I only heard Li Hao say lightly again. Then if there is an accident on the plane, can you bear the responsibility? Oh, by the way, you can't bear it? If something goes wrong, you will be the first to die. When Li Hao's words fell into the captain's ears, his expression suddenly changed, and he was also a little frightened by Li Hao's words. As for who I am, you will know later. Li Hao's voice came again. Li Hao directly called Linda. Hello, Mr. Li. Soon, the person on the other side picked up. Linda, help me check the phone number of the airline manager of flight AE95. Li Hao ordered directly to Linda. Okay, Mr. Li. Wait for me for 2 minutes. I will send it to you right away. Linda, the little assistant, has a strong ability to do things, and there are many channels. It is just a matter of checking the airline boss's phone number. It is easy. Soon. On Li Hao's WeChat, Linda sent a call. At the same time, Linda also called. Hey, Mr. Li, what a coincidence. Your flight is operated by China Airlines, which happens to be invested by a subsidiary of our group. Linda said on the phone. Li Hao couldn't help but be startled. This airline is actually invested by a subsidiary of Shanshui. Although it is not 100% controlled, it actually holds 55% of the shares. So, in this way, I can be regarded as the boss of Cathay Pacific Airlines. What a coincidence. Okay. Li Hao responded and hung up the phone. The next moment, Li Hao made another call. Hey, who's there? A man's deep voice came over the phone. It was Chen Gang, the CEO of Cathay Pacific Airlines. He was doing some healthcare in a high-end bathing center. Mr. Chen, right? I'm Li Hao from Shanshui Group. Li Hao said directly and reported his name. Ah. Li Hao. Mr. Li. Are you Mr. Li? Hello Mr. Li, you can just call me Xiao Cheng. Mr. Li called me. Do you have any instructions? On the other end of the phone, Chen Gang was suddenly startled when he heard it, and said quickly and respectfully. Of course he knows Li Hao's name. The largest shareholder and honorary chairman of Shanshui Group, he is the boss of Cathay Pacific Airlines and can be considered a member of Shanshui Group, and Li Hao's phone number can be found. There is a problem with the plane. It needs to suspend the flight and conduct a comprehensive overhaul. At Jiangbei Airport, the flight is AE9. Li Hao said directly again. What? There's something wrong with the plane. Don't worry, Mr. Li, I'll arrange for someone to check it right away. Chen Gang was shocked again and said quickly. Li Hao hung up the phone, and Chen Gang on the other side immediately stopped doing general healthcare and made 2 more calls in succession. In front of Li Hao, the captain saw Li Hao making a phone call, and naturally heard what Li Hao said, and couldn't help but show a hint of surprise. Mr. Cheng? Which Mr. Cheng? Could it be? Impossible. And is this guy in front of him actually from Shanshui Group? Being able to join the Shanshui Group at such a young age is quite impressive. The captain didn't expect that this young man would be even more awesome behind him. The next moment, he just received a phone call. The call was from the airport manager. The captain looked shocked and answered the phone. Yes. Yes. Okay. The captain answered one after another and finally hung up the phone. However, cold sweat broke out on his forehead. The boss directly approved him on the phone, saying that the flight was cancelled, and asked him to wait. The boss said that he was already on his way. Hiss. The captain took a deep breath. What does that mean? It means that he seems to have provoked a terrible person. The next moment, he murmured a piece of news that the three women, Lu Wenwen and the other two, were shocked by. Our flight has been cancelled. The plane will undergo a comprehensive and in-depth inspection. Ah! How is this possible? Oh my God! The three women exclaimed. Then, they were shocked to see a group of people rushing towards them. Is that Mr. Pan? And Mr. Sun? And Director Huang? Oh my God, why are they all here? The three women immediately recognized these people and were shocked again. The airport CEO Pan Jun, their airline's vice president Sun Chiang, and the director of the management center Huang Gua. These big guys who are rarely seen on weekdays actually showed up. A group of people, more than a dozen figures, and a lot of security followed. The scene was amazing. Soon, these people walked straight towards the few people. Many people around, even the passengers, saw this scene, and they were all shocked. What a big scene! Who is this? Which boss is coming down? Soon, Pan Jun and others came to Li Hao and others. The next moment, everyone saw. You are Mr. Li from Shanshui Group, right? I am Xiao Pan, the person in charge of Jiangbei Airport. Hello, Mr. Li, I'm sorry to have kept you waiting. I'm Sun Chiang. I'm Huang Gua. Several people said to Li Hao respectfully, extremely respectful. This scene, when seen by those around, made them stunned. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. God level tip, report the walking 500,000 at the beginning. Author, Tian Taido. Chapter 146. Everyone stared with wide eyes, watching the scene in front of them in horror, and their hearts were filled with shock. The general manager of Jiangbei Airport actually called himself Xiao Pan in front of the young man. The vice president of Cathay Pacific Airlines and the director of the management center also looked respectful. What is the identity of that young man? Oh my God, these big guys are so humble. I have never seen Mr. Pan and his team like this. Are they all coming out to greet this young man? Shocking voices suddenly rang out, and even many people took a breath of cold air. At this moment, not only the many passengers saw this scene, but also many employees of Jiangbei Airport saw this scene. They were shocked and began to guess the identity of this young man. In front of them, Lu Wenwen and the other three flight attendants also had shock on their pretty faces, and their eyes were filled with a touch of light. What is the identity of this guy? He made Mr. Pan and his team have this attitude. At the same time, the captain of this flight, seeing the looks of these big guys and their humble attitude, was filled with disbelief, but his face became even uglier at this moment. It seemed that he had really offended someone he shouldn't have offended. Yet, Li Hao looked at the people who had hurried over, nodded, and continued. It's still relatively timely. It's this plane, check it carefully. Especially the propeller. I don't want to mobilize so many people, and I hope I'm wrong. I told your captain, but people don't believe me, so I can't do anything, if it's not for safety first. Li Hao's voice fell into the ears of Pan Jun and others, and their faces suddenly changed again, especially the vice president of Cathay Pacific Airlines, whose face was also pale. Sun Chiang immediately looked at the captain. Are you blind? This is Mr. Li, the boss of our company, the largest shareholder of Shanshui Group, and the honorary chairman. You didn't even listen to Mr. Li's orders. Don't you want to be the captain? Sun Chiang directly scolded the captain angrily. This plane is his company's flight. Why is Mr. Li so sure that there is something wrong with this plane? Sun Chiang and others were also extremely surprised and curious. But what is the identity of this person in front of him? He is the largest shareholder of Shui Group. He is the real boss. Even this Cathay Pacific Airlines is an asset of his group. So he must obey Li Hao's words absolutely. This is the awareness of a smart person. However, when the captain and Lu Wenwen and others heard Sun Qiang's words, they were even more shocked. The boss of the company? This young man is the big boss of their Cathay Pacific Airlines chairman? The largest shareholder of Shui Group? Honorary chairman? This is the real boss. No wonder even Vice President Sun and the others are so humble. The young man in front of them is a dragon-like figure. Lu Wenwen and other women looked at Li Hao with their beautiful eyes, shining with brilliance. So young, so handsome, and the boss of a super group like Shui Group, this is the Prince Charming among all girls. And this captain, at this moment, turned extremely pale, cold sweat kept coming out, and he felt as if he couldn't stand steadily. Legs weak. He actually offended such a big man, he was about to faint, scared. Okay, President Li. I have arranged an engineer to conduct a comprehensive inspection immediately. At this time, Pan Jun said next to him. Well. Li Hao nodded again. Just then, some engineers came in a hurry, 7 or 8 of them, and they were all quite old, about 40 or 50 years old. It can be seen that these people are very good technicians. Soon, under the command of Pan Jun, these people directly conducted a comprehensive and in-depth inspection of the flight. And Li Hao was coordinating and guiding on the side. There should be no problems with other places, mainly the propeller of the aircraft. Just half an hour later, an engineer in his 50s with gray hair came over with an inspection report, but his face was extremely solemn. He is one of the top special aircraft maintenance engineers in the country and the chief aircraft maintenance engineer of the entire Jiangbei Airport. He has been repairing aircraft for 30 years and has never had any problems. But at this moment, his face was very solemn, even a little ugly, and of course a little fortunate. There is a problem. The propeller of this plane really has a problem, and every plane must be inspected before taking off, but the result is that the engineer who inspected the plane before was negligent. If the plane takes off, the consequences are simply unimaginable. How is it? Seeing the engineer coming over, Pan Jun immediately asked. Mr. Pan, there is indeed a problem with the propeller of this plane. If it takes off, the consequences will be unimaginable. Fortunately, another inspection was done. The engineer took a breath and said in a deep voice. And as soon as the engineer's words came out, hiss. The sound of people gasping for air suddenly rang out, and everyone was shocked. There really is a problem. While Pan Jun, Sun Qiang, and others were shocked, they also had a hint of fear in their hearts. If something goes wrong while this plane is flying to the sky, their current seats may be lost, and they will not be able to escape responsibility. Mr. Li, you are really amazing. You avoided a plane crash. Mr. Li, thank you very much. Pan Jun and others looked at Li Hao with even more respect from the bottom of their hearts. The captain sat down. I'm afraid he won't be able to be the captain. He didn't pay attention to such a big problem. Now that the problem is solved, it's time for me to leave. I missed the previous flight. Li Hao didn't say anything more and was about to leave directly, leaving the rest to Pan Jun and the others. Mr. Li, where are you going? Pan Jun asked Li Hao again. Go to Zishan to do something. Li Hao said directly. Mr. Li, please come with me. The ticket has been exchanged. Pan Jun said something to the person next to him, and soon said to Li Hao with a smile. Have you changed it? Li Hao looked at Pan Jun, a strange color flashed in his eyes. The work efficiency is quite high. Ever since. Pan Jun and others took Li Hao to another boarding gate. There are airport staff waiting there. Under the escort of Pan Jun, Li Hao boarded the plane to Zishan and got into the first-class cabin of the nearest flight. God-level tip, report the walking 500,000 at the beginning. Author, Tian Taido. Chapter 147. On this flight to Zishan, Li Hao was sitting in the first-class seat. This is Li Hao's first time flying first class. Before, Li Hao couldn't afford to fly in first class, but now, he doesn't have to buy first class himself, someone has already arranged it. This is the impact of one's own status and position. Of course, in the final analysis, everything is because of the system. If it were a system, Li Hao would still be an unknown and ordinary young man. Ding dong, congratulations to the host, a disaster has been avoided. Reward host Dami Airlines with 63% shares and a private jet 747-8. But at this moment, the system prompt sounded suddenly in Li Hao's mind. Talk about CAO arrives. I just thought about the system, and the system's reward is here again. It should be the reward just mentioned. Hearing the sound of the system, Li Hao was shocked again. Hiss. Li Hao couldn't help but take a breath. 63% stake in Dami Airlines. This Dami Airlines is not an airline of China, but an airline of China. But among the airlines in the world, it can be ranked among the top. It is definitely not the Cathay Pacific Airways. Comparable. And this Dami Airlines is making money. The annual turnover is calculated in tens of billions, and it's still $1 million. Li Hao himself doesn't know how much the 63% stake is worth. Hundreds of billions of dollars. Even more. In other words, he is now a billionaire? I'm afraid that in the whole of Jiangbei, and even in the whole of China, there won't be many people richer than myself, right? Not only was he rewarded with shares in the airline giant, the system also directly rewarded him with a private jet. 747-8? Isn't this the legendary palace in heaven? A private jet worth 1 billion soft girl coins. This is a private jet that the top rich want to own. Where is the plane? Li Hao became a little excited. Although the system rewarded him, it didn't say where the plane was now. Maybe still on the way. Forget it, I don't want to think about it for now. Because the more I think about it, the more excited I become. This time, a beautiful flight attendant came to Li Hao's seat. Hello Mr. Li, I am your exclusive flight attendant. If you need any service, just ask me. We will take off soon. I hope you have a pleasant journey. Li Hao looked at the extremely beautiful flight attendant in front of him and couldn't help but feel shocked again. This stewardess is tall and has an outstanding temperament. She has a small and exquisite nose, like a white jade carving, white teeth and bright eyes, and a fair oval face. She is definitely at the level of a goddess. She is more beautiful in appearance and temperament than the previous stewardesses such as Sun Yu and Lu Wenwen. Outstanding. Exclusive flight attendant? Does this first-class cabin still have this kind of perks? What's more, what makes Li Hao a little confused is that the plane is about to take off. Why are there so many seats in the first-class cabin still empty? Could it be that you are alone? Are these people too poor? Can't afford first class? They shouldn't. Li Hao was thinking in his mind. What Li Hao didn't know was that this was naturally arranged intentionally by Pan Jun and others, who wanted Li Hao to have a wonderful journey. Never mind. Li Hao didn't worry about whether there was anyone else. He was quieter and more comfortable by himself. And after the stewardess finished speaking, she sat in a special seat in front of her and looked at her with a smile, with a gleam in her eyes. Her name is Chu Xiaoqing. The reason why she is on this flight today is actually a temporary arrangement. Because she is good looking, has a good figure, and has a good temperament. She is the most outstanding one among all the flight attendants. And she is warm, attentive, and thoughtful. On weekdays, There are many people chasing her, but she has a high vision, but no one likes her. Moreover, she also has a strong background, and it is not just someone who can be valued by her family. Originally, she was somewhat reluctant to this arrangement before, but when she heard Pan Jun reveal the identity of the young man in front of her, Chu Xiaoqing really felt curious. Chu Xiaoqing of Shanshui Group naturally knew that this was a giant group with countless industries under its subsidiaries and huge assets. She had heard information about Shanshui Group many times from her parents and grandfather. Unexpectedly, the young man in front of me was actually the largest shareholder of Shanshui Group and the honorary chairman. Moreover, this guy is actually very handsome, especially your temperament is very outstanding. When Chu Xiaoqing stood next to Li Hao, she felt as if there was a special natural airflow on Li Hao's body, making her feel like a spring breeze and very comfortable. Just like this, Chu Xiaoqing's pretty face couldn't help but blush with embarrassment. Buzz. At this moment, the plane took off. What follows is an hour's flight time. Li Hao had nothing to do, so he simply closed his eyes and rested his mind. But at this moment, just when Li Hao closed his eyes and wanted to take a rest, the flight attendant in front seemed to come over again. Li Hao couldn't help but opened his eyes again and saw a wool blanket in the other person's hand. "Mr. Li, please cover yourself with this wool blanket. The air conditioner on the plane is a bit cold, so you won't catch a cold." Chu Xiaoqing said softly to Li Hao, and then gently put the wool blanket in her hand on Li Hao's body. Li Hao couldn't help but be startled. Caught a cold? How could it be possible? He was a cultivator. But Li Hao didn't refuse, nodded slightly, and didn't say much. However, it was the next moment. I saw that the stewardess actually brought a cushion from somewhere and came to Li Hao. Li Hao's eyes showed a hint of surprise. "Mr. Li, I'll lower your seat a little bit, and put a cushion to sit more comfortably." Chu Xiaoqing blushed and smiled, and said softly to Li Hao again. Li Hao didn't refuse either. Then Chu Xiaoqing gently put the cushion on Li Hao's lower back, bent down, and adjusted the chair. This Chu Xiaoqing was very close to Li Hao, and Li Hao even smelled a fragrance entering his nose, which smelled very good, clearly the fragrance of the stewardess. Comfortable. In this way, Li Hao enjoyed the attentive service of the stewardess. For the first time in history, I felt that flying was so pleasant. "Mr. Li, your lips are a little dry, let me pour you some water." "Mr. Li, your clothes seem to have some wrinkles, let me help you smooth them out." "Mr. Li, your shoes seem to have some dust, let me wipe them for you." "Mr. Li, you have walked for so long, your legs should be a little sore, let me massage your legs for you." God level tip, report the walking 500,000 at the beginning. Author, Tian Taido. Chapter 148. "Mr. Li, your lower body seems to be a little bulging. How about I help you?" Li Hao. No, no, no." Li Hao's face turned red when he heard what the stewardess said. "How can you let anyone help you with this kind of thing?" And she was a woman she had just met. "We are not just casual people." When Chu Xiaoqing heard Li Hao's words and saw Li Hao's appearance, a smile appeared on her pretty face. Just now, she mustered up a lot of courage to say these words. It was also the first time she said such words to a man. The other party actually refused. This actually made Chu Xiaoqing a little surprised. Does the other party look down on her? Doesn't she look good? If it were any other man, he probably wouldn't reject her. The more this happened, the more firm belief arose in Chu Xiaoqing's heart. This was her opportunity, and she must capture the young man in front of her. Putting aside the identity and wealth of the young man in front of her, Chu Xiaoqing really fell in love with the young man in front of her. Maybe, it was love at first sight. This young man seemed different from the men who pursued her, and he gave her a very mysterious feeling, and he also had a unique charm that made people obsessed with him. Next, Chu Xiaoqing used many actions to try to get closer to the relationship between the two. But from beginning to end, the young man in front of her always kept a distance from her, which made Chu Xiaoqing feel a little melancholy. But the more this happened, the more it inspired Chu Xiaoqing's fighting spirit. As the stewardess's voice kept ringing in Li Hao's ears, Li Hao enjoyed the considerate service of this beautiful stewardess. An hour's journey passed quickly. But this short time left Li Hao with a good mood. What a pleasure! Next time I come back, I must take first class. When getting off the plane, the stewardess proactively asked for Li Hao's phone number and added a WeChat message, saying that Li Hao would contact her in advance when he returned and she would make some arrangements. Li Hao also remembered the stewardess's name, Chu Xiaoqing, a very charming name. When Li Hao got off the plane, Chu Xiaoqing also sent Li Hao outside the cabin door. The next moment, she saw another scene that shocked her. All I saw was that there were several commercial vehicles parked under the plane, and there were some figures in suits standing in front of these commercial vehicles. What is going on? Chu Xiaoqing was in a daze, confused. Chu Xiaoqing didn't know the following people, but judging from this formation, the identities of these people were probably extraordinary. There were more than a dozen figures standing there neatly, and there were many security personnel guarding them. Although Chu Xiaoqing didn't know these people, many of the passengers who came out behind him were from Zishan, but their eyes fell on those below. He is the richest man in Zishan, the richest man in the world. Damn it, why is the richest man Long here? Look at the man next to Mr. Long. Isn't this our top leader in Zishan? Why is he even here? And those people next to me seem to be our big bosses in Zishan. Oh my god, why are you here? Shocking sounds came from the mouths of these passengers. When Chu Xiaoqing heard the voices of these people, she was shocked again. It turns out that he is the richest man in Zishan, and there are also top leaders and others. It looked like they were waiting for someone. Who are you waiting for? Chu Xiaoqing was very shocked, but suddenly another shocking idea burst into her mind. Chu Xiaoqing couldn't help but look at the young man beside her who had not yet walked away. Are these people? When Li Hao saw this scene, his eyes widened. Isn't this Long Sheng who gave him the spirit stone mine? Why are you at the airport? It seems like I have been waiting for a long time. Why don't you say anything to yourself? Li Hao murmured. Beside Long Sheng, his daughter Long Fei was also there. Apart from the father and daughter, Li Hao didn't know anyone else, but it looked like they were not ordinary people. Li Hao was speechless. This Long Sheng actually engaged in such a big battle, couldn't he keep a low profile? Li Hao came here for the Lingxi mine. If others knew about the existence of the Lingxi mine, it would probably cause some unnecessary trouble. These passengers walked away with flattered expressions, but were quickly guided aside by security personnel. Li Hao also walked down. However, when Li Hao went down, Long Sheng and others came directly to greet him. Mr. Long, what are you? Li Hao asked Long Sheng. Ha. Little brother, you are finally here. We are here specially to pick you up. Long Sheng laughed directly and said to Li Hao. Come on, let me introduce you. This is Gao Lizhuang, our top leader in Zishan. Long Sheng introduced the big guys around him to Li Hao. This is the honorary chairman of Shanshui Group, right? Is he also the CEO of Yuhao Group, Mr. Li? I didn't expect that such a famous name would be worse than meeting him. You are young and promising. You are young and promising. It is like the waves behind the Yangtze River push the waves ahead. Gao Lizhuang looked at Li Hao and said with a smile, his heart was filled with great excitement. He didn't know Li Hao was coming, but he got the news that Long Sheng was coming to the airport to pick him up. The person who could make Longsheng pay so much attention to him must not be an ordinary person, so Gao Lizhuang called Longsheng and asked him about the news that Li Hao, the honorary chairman and the largest shareholder of Shanshui Group, was coming here, so he gathered a group of people and hurried here. Before, when Longsheng said that Li Hao was very young, Gao Lizhuang didn't believe it, but seeing Li Hao's appearance at this moment, he was shocked. "Little brother, the hotel has been booked. It's noon now. Let's go eat together first." At this time, Longsheng said to Li Hao again. In order to welcome Li Hao, he had already booked the hotel. Yes. Li Hao nodded and didn't refuse. "Brother Gao, you don't have any plans for lunch, right? Let's go together." Longsheng asked Gao Lizhuang again. Gao Lizhuang was a really busy man, and it was usually difficult to arrange a meal with him. "Okay. I can postpone it even if I have plans." What Longsheng didn't expect was that Gao Lizhuang actually agreed very readily. "Let's go, little brother, get in the car." So, the group got in the car and left in a mighty manner. In the back, Chu Xiaoqing saw this scene, and a strange light flashed in her beautiful eyes again. After a moment, she took a deep breath, and her eyes became more determined. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. God level tip, report the walking 500,000 at the beginning. Author, Tian Taido. Chapter 149. Next, Li Hao, Longsheng and others took a car to a famous hotel in Zishan called New Leideng Hotel. The name of the restaurant has a meaning. When you are angry or unhappy, you come here. If you cook some good food and eat some food, your mood will become better. At the dinner, Li Hao also got to know the big guys in Zishan. People kept toasting to Li Hao, and Li Hao politely toasted them twice. Even Long Fei and Li Hao had 2 drinks with her. Amazing amount of alcohol. Gao Lizhuang and others were all shocked. Only Longsheng and his daughter looked calm. After knowing Li Hao's identity as a monk, they thought this was a normal thing. One meal lasted more than 2 hours. Gao Lizhuang and others left. There were still some meetings in the afternoon, and when they left, they also left phone calls with Li Hao. Multiple friends and multiple paths, maybe you will need to use friends in the future. As for these people, making friends also depends on the person and their status. After eating, Li Hao got into Longsheng's private business car again. "Mr. Long, can you go and see the spirit stone mine you mentioned now?" Li Hao asked Longsheng with a smile. "Can't wait, Mr. Li." "Haha, let's go to the mine now." "Who makes you so popular? These big guys want to make friends with you." In the car, Longsheng said to Li Hao again. Soon, the commercial vehicle headed for the suburbs of Zishan. The area of Zishan is larger than Jiangbei. It is not as famous as Jiangbei in China, and it is not as prosperous as Jiangbei, but there are many local tycoons here. Because Zishan is very rich in mineral resources. Coal mine, iron mine, copper mine, silver mine, gold mine. Longsheng, as the richest man in Zishan, also made his fortune because of these mineral resources, and in Longsheng's hands, he controlled most of them. The spirit stone mine that Longsheng mentioned was also discovered by chance. We sat in the car for more than an hour. As we entered the mountains, the road turned into a tractor-trailed road. The weather in the mountains has also become a bit gloomy. Finally, we arrived at the mine. This mine is very large, covering several kilometers in radius. There is mud and mess everywhere, the environment is not very good, and the original environment of this area has been almost destroyed. Li Hao couldn't help but sigh in his heart when he saw this scene. For the sake of wealth, destroying the environment is not worth the gain. Not long after, as they went deeper into the mine, there were some more houses on one side of the tractor road. These houses were made of wooden boards and looked very simple, and Li Hao could see some people wearing shabby work clothes. People were coming in and out. Apparently, this area is where most of the people who work in the mine live. Li Hao noticed that when many of these people came out, most of them were relatively clean, but those who returned, one or two, looked like they had returned from Africa, and their whole bodies were black. Miner. This is the miner. This is their daily work routine. When Li Hao saw this scene, he couldn't help but feel a little touched in his heart. This house is where these miners live. In each of them, there may be many people living there, maybe their colleagues, maybe their family members. This may not be their original home, but for the sake of living, it has become their home. Even the families of some miners live here. These people work in the dark, but use their hands to support the blue sky for their families behind them. Although their work seems embarrassing, they earn money with their own hands. Every time they return, their eyes are full of satisfaction. Li Hao saw some women and children at the door of some houses. Long Shen next to him may have noticed Li Hao's eyes, and said lightly at this moment, "There are more than 1,000 miners like this in this mine. Most of them are people from this mountain and have been working here for many years." Li Hao nodded and said nothing more. Li Hao is not a saint and cannot see the suffering in the world. Life is like this, it is not always beautiful, there is also reality and cruelty. But everyone has his own life and his own way of living. This is everyone's freedom. Soon, Long Shen took Li Hao deeper and came to a mine, but the surrounding area of the mine was sealed. Obviously, it was Long Sheng Feng. The spiritual stone on Feier's body was found from under this mine. Long Sheng said directly to Li Hao. Li Hao looked at the mine and his eyes narrowed. The next moment, Li Hao came directly to the edge of the mine and looked into the depths of the mine. The mine was extremely dark, there was no light, and it was impossible to see how deep it was, which was heart-stopping. At the same time, Li Hao was suddenly shocked. That's right. An extremely pure spiritual power emanates from this mine, and it is extremely rich. I'll go in and take a look. Li Hao said directly to Long Sheng. Would you like me to arrange for a few workers who are familiar with this mine to go down with you? Long Sheng asked Li Hao. No, I can just go down by myself. Li Hao said lightly again, no need. After saying that, Li Hao went directly into the mine and went down. Long Sheng and Long Feier looked at each other when they saw this scene. Dad, is he okay going down alone? Long Feier asked Long Sheng. She was a little scared when she saw this dark mine, but Li Hao actually went down alone. For a moment, she was a little worried. Of course. He is a cultivator. Such a small mine can't stop him. Even if it collapses, it can't stop him from coming out. Long Sheng immediately said affirmatively, and then looked at Long Feier in surprise, with a smile on his face. Are you worried? Feier, do you like him? Hearing Long Sheng's words, Long Feier's pretty face suddenly flushed with shame. Who is worried? Who likes it? Long Feier pouted and said, admitting that she would definitely not admit it. Ha ha. Long Sheng laughed again when he saw this scene. In the mine, Li Hao went deeper and deeper, and soon he went down dozens of meters. This mine was very deep, it seemed to be hundreds of meters deep. Although there was no light, it was not a problem for Li Hao, a cultivator. Li Hao's perception was so sharp that everything in the mine was within Li Hao's perception. As Li Hao went deeper and deeper, the spiritual power that filled the entire space became more and more dense. Li Hao's heart could not help but get excited. It must be a spiritual stone mine. Now Li Hao just needed to confirm how much spiritual stone mine there was and how big it was. God level tip, report the walking 500,000 at the beginning. Author, Tian Tian Taido. Chapter 150. Li Hao went deeper and soon reached the bottom of the mine. The whole space was filled with extremely rich spiritual power, which was extremely rich, even richer than the spiritual power of the high mountain treasure land like Lejun Mountain. It was pitch black here, without any light, and the soil and stones were all black. But the next moment, Li Hao looked at a corner and was shocked again. Although it was very dark, Li Hao still saw clearly that there was a touch of crystal in a corner at the bottom of the cave. Then, Li Hao came to this corner again and squatted down. This is a gap, as if it was dug by someone. Li Hao carefully sensed that spiritual power was constantly emanating from this gap on the ground. Obviously, the spiritual power filled in this space was released from here. Moreover, Li Hao saw that the stone in the gap was not black, but was in the shape of white jade, with crystals flashing inside. Spiritual stone. This is a spiritual stone. This spiritual stone, I don't know how big it is, how many there are, and I don't know what it looks like underneath it. The next moment, Li Hao directly stretched out his palm and pressed it on the spiritual stone. A powerful force of cultivation started to flow from Li Hao's body, and the spiritual power contained in the spiritual stone under the stone immediately entered Li Hao's body through Li Hao's palm. At the same time, Li Hao closed his eyes, and a thought went to perceive the bottom. After a moment, Li Hao suddenly opened his eyes again. Hiss! Li Hao couldn't help but take a breath. So many spiritual stones. Not only are there spiritual stones, but there are also spiritual springs underneath. This is not an ordinary spiritual stone, this is an underground spiritual vein. Li Hao's heart was filled with shock and he was really shocked. It's rich. It's really rich. The value of this underground spiritual vein is simply inestimable, and it can't be represented by money. Without saying anything, Li Hao sat cross-legged and began to absorb the spiritual power crazily. Practice. In Li Hao's body, the incomparable spiritual power kept flowing, and as Li Hao swallowed and spit, it became a part of Li Hao's cultivation. Li Hao's entire cultivation began to improve at a rapid speed. In just a moment, Li Hao's cultivation became much stronger. Li Hao, who was originally in the late stage of foundation building, was heading towards the peak of foundation building. Li Hao felt that the spiritual power was being absorbed by his body constantly, and his meridians, flesh and bones were undergoing transformation under the effect of spiritual power. The strength of his whole body was getting stronger. Li Hao even felt that the base in his dantian was spinning rapidly, madly absorbing the spiritual power that entered Li Hao's body. Another half an hour later, Li Hao's cultivation went up one more level and became the peak of foundation building. But Li Hao still did not stop practicing. The entire dark space seemed very quiet. Li Hao sat on the ground, constantly absorbing the spiritual power in the spirit stone from the gap. Just like that. I don't know how long it lasted. Li Hao kept practicing, concentrating, and focusing all his mind on practicing. As Li Hao absorbed more and more spiritual power, the base in Li Hao's body rotated faster and faster, making Li Hao's dantian turbulent. Later, as Li Hao's cultivation was running, the base slowly changed its appearance as the spiritual power entered crazily. This physical base, which is also the foundation of cultivation, kept vibrating, and the vibration became more and more intense. So much so that the spiritual power of Li Hao's cultivation became more and more fluctuating. Crack. Finally, at a certain moment, in Li Hao's body, in the space of dantian, there seemed to be a sound of something breaking. It was the sound of the base breaking. At the same time, Li Hao felt that there seemed to be a sound of breaking above his body. It was as if a barrier covering his body suddenly broke at this moment. This is the realm barrier. There are realm barriers between realms. As long as you break through this barrier, you can break through to the next more powerful realm. At this moment, the realm barrier between the foundation building realm and the core formation realm on Li Hao's body was broken. Boom! With the breaking of this realm barrier, a powerful momentum suddenly released from Li Hao's body. Buzz. In an instant, the earth shook and the whole mountain shook. And in Li Hao's Danshan space, the base was gone. Instead, there was a golden inner elixir, which was filled with an extremely mysterious feeling and accompanied by a great aura. This is the golden elixir. Core formation realm. I broke through to the core formation realm. Li Hao felt the existence of this golden elixir, and even felt the changes in his body at this moment, muttering, his voice full of excitement and surprise. Li Hao's cultivation level had directly broken through to the Jindan realm, which was countless times stronger than before. Li Hao couldn't tell exactly what level he had reached now, but he felt a strong force. When he raised his hand, it seemed as if he could split the mountains and crack the earth. At the moment when Li Hao broke through, the entire mountain of the mine was shaken, and a series of horrified voices rang out from every corner of the mine. "Oh my God, what's going on? Oh my God, is there an earthquake? Run! The mine is going to collapse, run quickly! I don't want to die here." Especially those miners who were under the mine, they also had a look of extreme horror at this moment, and kept shouting in horror, rushing to the top of the mine at a high speed. If the mine collapsed, they would all be buried under it, and their lives would be over. But when they were about to run out frantically, they found that the mine did not seem to collapse. It was not an earthquake. Long Sheng and Long Fei naturally felt the vibration from the ground under their feet, and their faces suddenly showed a touch of horror at this moment. "Dad, what's going on? Will Li Hao be in trouble?" Long Fei asked Long Sheng, with a hint of worry in her voice. Long Sheng was extremely shocked. Although he was not a cultivator and could not feel spiritual power, Long Sheng could feel a strong momentum coming from the bottom of the mine. "Don't worry. He will be fine. He has become stronger again," Long Sheng said in shock. This guy seemed to have made a breakthrough under the mine. It should be because of the spiritual stone mine below. Long Sheng felt more and more that it was a wise decision to give this spiritual stone mine to Li Hao. The stronger Li Hao's strength, the thicker this thigh will be, and the more chances he will have to avenge his dead wife.